Assalamu alaikum and good morning everyone and greetings of peace. So just now I'm going to make a live stream based on the Palestinian authorities, the Palestinians who live in Gaza, the Gazans, and this particular live stream is actually not quite live, it's not very recent, it's actually from the 7th of October. Of the denial of all these atrocities, I can never say the word, crimes against humanity, all these false allegations that's been spreading in the mainstream media regarding beheadings of children and, killing innocent civilians, capturing innocent civilians and taking them as hostages, and all these other lies, unfounded lies that's been spreading on social media and the mainstream media and so on, with claims of rape and all these nonsense that take place. Now, if there was a crime or anyone did commit a crime, of course they'll be should be held up and should face the legal process. Okay, they should obviously be charged because it's a crime, rape and killing innocent civilians or harming people in certain ways and all that stuff. That's a crime. And it should be obviously dealt with accordingly. I'm not saying anything regarding that. However, when lies are being spread, and especially the mainstream media know very well these are unverified information and they continue spreading it. And then when they eventually get verifications that that information and these pictures or videos were fabricated, they should then retract from reporting such lies. And I'll tell you a little story. Actually, I have a Polish friend who contacted me and sent me pictures, videos, claiming these pictures and videos are regarding a young lady, Israeli citizen, being raped and all that stuff. And what he didn't realize that Palestinians do not live in Ukraine, nor do Palestinians' native language is Russian or Ukrainian, and nor do they look anything European in any way. So the perpetrators were clearly either in some Eastern European city or in Ukraine or Russia. I don't know, but the language is definitely not Arabic. When I told him that, he didn't even know that Palestinians' native language is Arabic. That's how ignorant people are. And when someone is ignorant of the facts, and they don't probably even know where Palestine or the so-called occupiers, the apartheid state, Israel, exists, and they assume that is somewhere in Europe. That is how ignorant some people are. So they believe anything. They'll fall for anything. So, and now I hope the people that are viewing this channel are not so ignorant and are a bit more smarter and at least have an IQ of over 1 to understand these facts and not fall for the lies that are being spreading on social media. Now, without any further ado, I'd like to play this statements made by someone from an authorized position in the Palestinian Authority or someone in Gaza. I don't know who it is exactly, but I'll play from where it's basically broadcasting, because it's kind of like broadcasting again and again. It's repeating the same message. So initially I thought actually it was a live stream and I wanted to go live quickly and show you, but I'll show you this video on repeat, and then once he finishes his statement, then I'll stop and make a few comments at that point. Anyway, let's get started, inshallah, God willing. So I'm going to move my cam just slightly here so you can get a better visibility, and we'll watch it together.
Humanitarian materials into the Gaza Strip. First, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood was a supremely defensive act. Second, the decision to launch the military operation was entirely Palestinian. The operation targeted only Israeli military bases and compounds that were suffocating the people of Gaza for more than 17 years. We here would like to stress that there were clear instructions from the top commander of Al-Qassam brigades to avoid targeting civilians or killing them. Fifth, as a result of the swift collapse of the Israeli military bases and the surrender of the Israeli soldiers, chaos prevailed in the scene where civilians found themselves in the middle of the confrontations. We condemn the unethical bias by the Western governments, mainly the US, where they were only seeking to demonize the Palestinian people and their struggle for freedom and dignity. For the captives and prisoners held by the resistance, we confirm here and make it clear we are fully committed to treat them in accordance with our religious values and the rules of international humanitarian law. But in the same time, we are really worried that as the Israeli aggression is everywhere in Gaza, they might be the victims to the Israeli army bombardment like our people. We all know that Israel military allows Israeli army to target captives and their captors, even if it leads to kill them, which is named the Hannibal Doctrine. We also confirm that the file of prisoners and captures will not be open as long as the Israeli aggression on Gaza continues. On the Israeli allegations of killing civilians and beheading of babies, which were unethically and unprofessionally adopted by many Western media outlets, this is completely shame that these media outlets follow such lies and Israeli propaganda without making simple efforts to check the reality of these allegations. We firmly deny these allegations, and as we reject this media bias, we call on the media agencies to abide by the journalism code of ethics. We totally reject the racist speech by US President Joe Biden, who adopted crystal clear lies against our resistance and who blindly followed the Israeli allegations and propaganda that were refuted even by many US media. We call upon the governments and peoples all over the world to help us against such brutal and fascist occupation. We call on all the free people around the world to shoulder their moral responsibilities towards the Palestinian just cause, and also we urge the international community to take immediate actions toward ending this Israeli aggression and to ensure reopening of the crossing in order to allow the entry of all basics and humanitarian materials into the Gaza Strip. First, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood was a supremely defensive act. Second, the decision to launch the military operation was entirely Palestinian. The operation targeted only Israeli military bases and compounds that were suffocating the people of Gaza for more than 17 years. We here would like to stress that there were clear instructions from the top commander of Al-Qassam brigades to avoid targeting civilians or killing them. Fifth, as a result of the swift collapse of the Israeli military bases and the surrender of the Israeli soldiers, chaos prevailed in the scene where civilians found themselves in the middle of the confrontations. We condemn the unethical bias by the Western governments, mainly the US, where they were only seeking to demonize the Palestinian people and their struggle for freedom and dignity. For the captives and prisoners held by the resistance, we confirm here and make it clear we are fully committed to treat them in accordance with our religious values and the rules of international humanitarian law. But in the same time, we are really worried that as the Israeli aggression is everywhere in Gaza, they might be the victims to the Israeli army bombardment like our people. We all know that Israel military allows Israeli army to target captives and their captors, even if it leads to kill them, which is named the Hannibal Doctrine. We also confirm that the file of prisoners and captures will not be open as long as the Israeli aggression on Gaza continues. On the Israeli allegations of killing civilians and beheading of babies, which were unethically and unprofessionally adopted by many Western media outlets, this is completely shame that these media outlets follow such lies and Israeli propaganda without making simple efforts to check the reality of these allegations. We firmly deny these allegations, and as we reject this media bias, we call on the media agencies to abide by the journalism code of ethics. We totally reject the racist speech by US President Joe Biden, who adopted crystal clear lies against our resistance and who blindly followed the Israeli allegations and propaganda that were refuted even by many US media. We call upon the governments and peoples all over the world to help us against such brutal and fascist occupation. We call on all the free people around the world to shoulder their moral responsibilities towards the Palestinian just cause, and also we urge the international community to take immediate actions toward ending this Israeli aggression and to ensure reopening of the crossing in order to allow the entry of all basics and humanitarian materials into the Gaza Strip. First, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood was a supremely defensive act. Second, the decision to launch the military operation was entirely Palestinian. The operation targeted only Israeli military bases and compounds that were suffocating the people of Gaza for more than 17 years. We here would like to stress that there were clear instructions from the top commander of Al-Qassam brigades to avoid targeting civilians or killing them. Fifth, as a result of the swift collapse of the Israeli military bases and the surrender of the Israeli soldiers, chaos prevailed in the scene where civilians found themselves in the middle of the confrontations. We condemn the unethical bias by the Western governments, mainly the US, where they were only seeking to demonize the Palestinian people and their struggle for freedom and dignity. For the captives and prisoners held by the resistance, we confirm here and make it clear we are fully committed to treat them in accordance with our religious values and the rules of international humanitarian law. But in the same time, we are really worried that as the Israeli aggression is everywhere in Gaza, they might be the victims to the Israeli army bombardment like our people. We all know that Israel military allows Israeli army to target captives and their captors, even if it leads to kill them, which is named the Hannibal Doctrine. We also confirm that the file of prisoners and captures will not be open as long as the Israeli aggression on Gaza continues. On the Israeli allegations of killing civilians and beheading of babies, which were unethically and unprofessionally adopted by many Western media outlets, this is completely shame that these media outlets follow such lies and Israeli propaganda without making simple efforts to check the reality of these allegations. We firmly deny these allegations, And as we reject this media bias, we call on the media agencies to abide by the journalism code of ethics. We totally reject the racist speech by US President Joe Biden, who adopted crystal clear lies against our resistance and who blindly followed the Israeli allegations and propaganda that were refuted even by many US media. We call upon the governments and people.
So yeah, the video is being repeated several times. I allowed it to run a couple of times so you can get the gist of the message and understand what is actually happening regarding Joe Biden's statements. They were denied by the White House. He claimed that he's seen pictures of decapitated babies and videos and evidence and all that stuff. And then the media, obviously the US media, reported it, that it has been verified, confirmed, and just a few minutes after that, the White House came out and said this is all not true, and there was no evidence, no pictures seen or videos or any such evidence that came about. Also, that the soldier, the Israeli soldier, that made that allegation, that saying that he's seen these things, he couldn't even provide any evidence to this. It was his claim, and it was more of a prank joke between him and his colleagues when they were being interviewed. And later on, it was found that he was just spreading lies and it was just a prank joke. However, the Western media, as well as the media all over the world, started spreading this false lies. Front page of all the Western media, newspapers, on the internet, social media, and so on. And like I told you when I started the stream, I have a friend from Poland, and he was sending me pictures which clearly were not in Palestine or anywhere near there, and the natives or the people in the picture looked like Europeans, and the language was definitely not Arabic. It sounded more like Russian or Ukrainian, or possibly it could have been Polish as well. So the clips are clearly being fabricated and then spread on the internet, and there's a lot of ignorant people that just fall for absolutely anything, and they continue spreading it. He didn't even know himself that Palestine belonged in the Middle East, and Gaza is actually not in Europe somewhere, and they don't speak Russian. So that's how ignorant some people are, and people fall for these nonsense that goes on. And as for the people that watch Great Britain News or any other racist or far right wing news outlets, or even the BBC, even, they need to watch it with an open mind and not fall for the lies, because they have to understand the agenda. If someone's a white supremacist or a Nazi or a racist, of course they'll be trying to discriminate against other races. It's very clear. So if someone is a Zionist and they have a Zionist media outlet, they will be spreading their false narrative, and because they have an agenda. And that is why until today, although the most evidence exists against this fabricated lies, which trying to demonize the Palestinians and just call all Arabs as terrorists, because if you point a finger at the Palestinians and call them terrorists, and you refuse to call them by their ethnicity as Palestinians or Arabs, then you are the terrorist. Then you are discriminating. Then you are the racist if you do that. So therefore, we need to understand the agenda. When it works to their agenda, it benefits them in their agenda in spreading those lies, even though the evidence is fabricated, they will continue pushing it out there to the general public. What the general public need to do, if they have an IQ more than one, they need to investigate and find verification of such evidence, such allegation. They can't just continue spreading it on social media. And then there's other groups of people that have actually approached me and said, oh, why do you care so much about Palestinians? It's like our neighbors, if something's going on to our neighbors, it doesn't matter, it's happening to them. We are it's, as long as you're safe, you're fine. We need to stop being selfish, because what's happening, initially they'll be targeting our neighbors. They'll be targeting someone whose skin color is darker than ours, and then later on they'll target us. So if your neighbor's getting robbed and you do absolutely nothing to defend your neighbor, tomorrow it will be your turn. But we should be united against falsehood. The nonsense that's being spread on the social media, the attack against Islam, the attack against Muslims, the attack against other ethnic minorities. We can't be silent, because there comes a time when silence is betrayal. There comes a time when inaction is betrayal. Now, I'm saying this, I've been targeted so many times and treated unjustly. And I'm fighting battles right now of my own, of how I've been discriminated, how I've been demonized in so many different ways, just by speaking up and saying the truth. And I'm not spreading it here, I'm not telling you about what I'm going through in my personal life, simply because I refuse to stay silent. And I don't want other brave people out there that are trying to speak out to be scared of the establishments. I don't want anyone to be scared. But if anything happens to me, alhamdulillah, that's what's written for me. And I don't care about anything else, as long as I speak the truth. I'm speaking with conviction, because I know the facts, where so many people don't care about. So many people live like cowards. I have friends that are being discriminated in so many ways, and on a private level, in one-to-one, they complain to me. They say how they're being discriminated in the Isle of Man, how they're being discriminated in Western countries. But if I put them on camera and say, let's record something, they speak very highly about their treatment in the Isle of Man. I tell them, well, have you suffered any discrimination? They don't say anything, because they're too scared. Enough is enough. In the Quran, it tells you very clearly, don't be afraid of them, but be afraid of me. Be afraid of the Creator. Allah is above everything. He's aware of everything. He created everyone. He created the evil people that exist today and the good people. He has control over everything. So what is wrong with you, O Muslims? What is wrong with you that you are scared? So scared that you align yourself with the falsehood, based on anything. You're scared. You're so scared of other people, other creations, than your Creator. That is the state that we're in today. People just have pity for the Palestinians, but they turn a blind eye. In secret, they say, well, they mumble, and they say, well, this is not right, whatever. But they're too afraid to speak out, because they don't want to be targeted. They're scared of false evidence. They have this fear, and fear stands for false evidence appearing real. But if we are united, if we all stand up and speak out against the lies that are being perpetrated by the Western media and other media outlets, if we stand up and say enough is enough, or what's wrong with you Arab nations, I'm not talking about the individuals or the citizens of the country or the Egyptians, the common man in Egypt, for example, they're ready to fight. They're ready to defend their brothers and sisters in Gaza. There's over 120 million Egyptians. And I'm telling you right now, at least 50% of them are brave enough and they're prepared to fight and defend their brothers. However, because Egypt is an ally to Israel, they betray the Gazan people. They blockade the Gazan people. They refuse to allow even the sick, the injured. They refuse that medicine should be allowed in. They refuse even the basic necessities to go in. And they sell the false lie to their citizens that if they open the borders of Rafah, then terrorists will go into Egypt. They call even the Palestinian brothers terrorists, just like the same as Western media. Now, I'm not against the Egyptian authority in any way. I don't side with Muslim Brotherhood or anyone else that speaks negatively. I always speak against the people that speak negatively about Egypt. But the truth has to come out. The reality is they are betraying the people. They're betraying their own citizens by keeping that Rafah border closed. Because they know that they want to support Israel. This is what Egypt wants. They're supporting Israel. Jordan is supporting Israel. All the Arab nations, including even Turkey, is supporting Israel because they're thinking about the prophets. They're too afraid to stand up and speak. So they have to speak in a very low voice. Maybe we should, take it easy. Maybe you should slow down your killing. That's their language. If you listen to any of the world leaders from the Middle East, you will see them saying, well, just take it easy. Don't kill too many, just a few here and there. Maybe just reduce the collateral damage. But no one is stepping up and speaking up strongly with strong language and saying, no, do not kill our brothers and sisters. If you step the line, we're going to move in. They're not brave enough to do that because they're too afraid of Iblis than they're afraid of Allah who created them. And they'll be judged because this is a test on all of us from the Creator. Those who profess to be Muslims, we are in a test. Every single world leader is in a test who profess to be Muslims. I'm not talking about the non-Muslims now. I'm talking to us Muslim brothers and sisters. Anyone in a position to speak and do not speak, they're portraying. They're portraying their own belief. They're portraying their own human... I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. I'm really embarrassed for them. I'm very sorry for the people that are in any position of authority and are too afraid, because that just shows how cowardly they are. When I was speaking to an Egyptian brother who's in the media in Egypt, for example, and I told him, listen, I'm not even asking for the Egyptian authority to allow all Palestinians or all Gazans into Egypt. Just allow the injured, just allow the very old people, just allow the children to safety. Protect them. There are cancer patients that are supposed to get treatment and they can't even get treatment. There are people in extreme circumstances, they need their medication. Even allow the medicine to go in. Even allow water. Allow something to go in. And they said, no, Israel said no, we can't do that. What do you mean? Who is Israel? Are you saying Allah? Or are you saying another creation of Allah? Are you saying that you're siding because you got orders from the servants of Satan, you have to hear and obey? You're not supposed to be like that. As a Muslim, you're supposed to say, we hear and obey to Allah. He's your creator. Not to Iblis. What is wrong with you? Why have you aligned yourself with Iblis? Why have you aligned yourself with the terrorists that are massacring your own brothers and sisters? And ultimately, we're all brothers and sisters in humanity. We all originated from Adam. So whether you're a Jew, an Arab, Chinese, Indian, African, it doesn't matter, because we're all brothers and sisters. We're all equal in the sight of God. There's no such thing as an inferior and superior race. It's complete garbage, this whole concept of a superior race and an inferior race. We're all equal. God tells us in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, we created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into nations and tribes. So you can recognize each other. The best of you is the best in conduct. The best who gives the most beneficial individual. We're supposed to be focused on cooperating together, completing each other to do benefit and build and construct and be productive and proactive in life. Not focus on destructive and terrorist activities. Not trying to dominate or exploit or take advantage. We are on the wrong path. Even those who profess to be Muslims, they don't even know Islam. Islam is not a culture. It's not like a culture, something that you inherit. Now, as a child, I grew up believing that Islam was something you inherited. Just like the Jews believe that you cannot be a Jew if you, for example, was not born a Jew. Or your parents or your mother in particular was not, from a Jewish descent. That's complete garbage, because ultimately we're different races. Now, I can't be a Nigerian African, for example, or I can't be Chinese, for ethnically Chinese, because I'm not. So I can't convert to being Chinese. I have my ethnicity is my ethnicity, but we're all born. We don't choose where we're born. We don't choose our parents. We just come in this world with a set of cards, traits and attributes, and we have to perform. And our test in life, we have to perform at our best ability, work with our strengths, and other people complete us because our strength could be someone else's weakness, and their weakness could be someone else's strength, and so on. So we are supposed to unite and cooperate and complete each other, not look at each other and point fingers. Because you might be pointing a finger at someone right now and saying, well, yeah, he's so bad, he's very poor in mathematics or something, or he's not so good at this particular task. But guess what? What he could perform well in, you will perform badly in. So we shouldn't point a finger at each other's weakness, because their strength is our weakness. So we're supposed to cover up and complete each other. Now, in the business sense, just to give you an example, I'm going off topic a little bit. In the business sense, I get approached by so many people asking me, let's do business together. And I ask them a very simple question. How much capital are you going to put towards this project? What skills, what are you putting, what resources are you putting forward? And they get dumbfounded. They say, they don't even know how to answer that question. I said, well, if you are putting a project forward, or you've got an idea, ideas are cheap. Everybody can go to sleep and dream and have a fantasy and a dream of a business and, starting, and they've got this great idea, or they see some other business that's successful and they say, let's just do a copycat of that because I can see they're making money. Let's just copy them. But okay, you want to copy them. Maybe you're going to do something different. Fine. So you see Uber is successful. Let's just create another, ride hailing app, whatever, call it a different name. But what is different between their idea and your idea? And who's financing it? How much of your own capital are you putting forward? What resources are you? And they just don't know anything. They don't have anything. They want me to put front everything, finance everything, do everything for them, and basically give them a business on a plate. People are very selfish, and I don't like working with these kind of people that are very selfish. They come to me and to try to take something out of me, but they don't put anything forward. They're not serious. They're not business people. They're not entrepreneurs. They're jokers. They're clowns, in my opinion. What should happen, even in a business world, is everyone will say, I have a technical skill. I'm a software engineer, for example. Another person will say, I'm an accountant. I can deal with the accounts. I'm going to take that and we're going to do a project together. Fine. How much are you putting? I'll put 10K, I'll put 100K, I'll put 200K, 50K from him. Let's unite together. Let's start a company. And based on our capital contribution, we'll put a value on it and we'll divide the shares amongst us. That is how a professional business gets structured. Not in the way that some of these brothers come to me and tell me, let's start up a company and let's do this and that. Because they're asking me to do all the work for them and give them all the profit. Complete nonsense. So likewise, we shouldn't be thinking that way. We should be coming to a meeting, coming to the table as citizens and coming to the table and saying, this is how I can serve you. I see you are in a difficult situation. We're supposed to be aware of what's going on. We're supposed to care for even the 7 neighbors on our left and 7 neighbors on our right. This is the orders from Allah on us. This is an obligation on us that to be concerned for the well-being of our neighbors, 7 neighbors to our right and 7 neighbors to our left. We need to make sure that they're eating, they're having, they're in peace, they're protected, shelter. Any problems, we try to help them. We have to be responsible. And if everyone looks to their left and right and be concerned and help other people and just focus on serving others rather than serving themselves, and everyone does that, the whole world will be better off. Pay it forward. American film, if you watched it. about, you look for 2 people or 3 people in your life and you try to help them in some way, and they also look for another 2 or 3 people around them, and they try to help them, and they pay it forward. It's a film as well, based on that concept of service to many leads to greatness. So we shouldn't judge people. If someone's in need or in some crisis, you don't say to him, what's your political view on this topic? What's your gender? What's your, ethnicity? Could you do some genetics tests? And then based on that, we will decide if we can help you out and whatever. You shouldn't be discriminating. It's sad. But even in the Muslim community, even amongst Arabs, they're divided. The only united people that I've seen are the Jews. Not the Zionists, but the Jews. Jews as a community, they always are tightly knit. They usually form like a cluster in a particular area, and they cooperate together to help each other out. They always look at the weakest link in the community, and they all come together as a community to support them. We as Muslims, we as the rest of the world, should be like that. We shouldn't be discriminating against each other's ethnicity. In Islam, we're all brothers. And even outside Islam, Allah has also told us that we are all brothers in humanity. Saving a life, not saving a Muslim life, not saving a Christian life, but saving any life, has a great reward. It's like saving the life of the whole of mankind. And killing a life is as if you killed all of the life of all of mankind. That's how dangerous it is. It's a very heavy punishment. And imagine day in, day out, every single minute of a day for the past 75 years, even longer than 75 years. The so-called Israeli terrorist state has been killing, kidnapping, raping, torturing children, women, men, every single level, poisoning water, preventing basic human rights from taking place, disrespecting even the Christians, spitting against the Christians. Now, why would Christians support Israel when they're oppressing their own religious brothers? They're oppressing Christians or Palestinian Christians. Shireen, the presenter on Al Jazeera, who was shot dead in cold blood by the IDF, the Israeli Terrorist Defense Force. And she was a Christian. Many Christians in doing some pilgrimage in Jerusalem, they get spat at. They get insulted. They get physically punished. And how can evangelical Christians in America then be in support of the Zionist state, the terrorist state? How could that be? And it's very simply because they believe that the Jewish race are a superior race and every other race is inferior. They have a caste system based on fake scripts that did not come from God. God never discriminates against people. God created all of us equal. We're different but equal. We have different roles and responsibility. We have our own strengths and weakness. So we perform different in different scenarios. It does not mean that you are superior if you're a medical doctor than a mechanic, for example, or an engineer. You may be earning different rates based on the supply and demand in the market, and what you're contributing, how the market values. This is different. But that does not mean that you are a superior human in any way based on your profession or just your qualifications. You should stay humble. We all need each other. There's no inferior and superior human race and none of this stuff. We didn't come from different planets and we're fighting to conquer planet Earth. We all originated from the same father and mother. So ultimately, we're all part of the same family, the family of the human race. So we should respect each other. And not only that, we should even take care of other creations of God, even the animals, even the environment. It's our obligation. We're here to look after this planet. take care of each other, be beneficial to everyone. While we're here, this is our purpose. And then ultimately we return to the Creator, and the Creator is the judge. He's the one that will judge who's good, who did it for pride, arrogance, did it for other, they have a different agenda for other people to say, oh, this person's charitable and this person's that, or to make money. A lot of people set up charities, for example, even Muslim charities, for ulterior motives. To create some sort of an income stream for themselves and their family, and they're living off the charity and claiming that they're giving part of it to a cause like supporting orphans or supporting Palestine. Many of these charities, you'll see them around right now collecting donations for Gaza, claiming that they need water and medicine and so on. But guess what? Nothing is going into Gaza. So what's the money being collected for? I can tell you what's being collected for, because I did some bookkeeping for the accounts of charities, well-known charities, as a volunteer. I never got paid a penny, but I can tell you what their accounts have been doing. They're taking that money and putting it into high interest accounts, long-term, 3-5 year bonds, or longer even, and they're earning dividends on it. So they're earning riba, which is haram in Islam. That is what they're doing. I spoke to charities that claim they're 100% donation policy. But the reality is, if you look at their accounts, download their accounts, see how much the trustees and people are actually earning as a salary from the charity. Where do you think that salary is coming from? If someone's earning £100,000 a year, they're not doing any business. They're just collecting donations. Where do you think the £100,000 is coming from? That's just one individual. How about if there was 12 or 20 people and they're all earning £100,000? That money, which should have gone to the cause, is going into people's pockets. It's financing their lifestyle. I know people personally that used to work as professionals, and they decided to give up their job and set up a charity because they can make more money. They do it as an income stream. And I'm not telling you not to donate to charities, but do your research. Find the charity that takes the most minimum percentage. In my personal opinion, they shouldn't be taking anything at all. They should all be doing it for the sake of God, fi sabilillah, to support their other human fellows or the cause, even if it's animal rights or, taking care of animals or whatever. I believe they should do it 100% for free, voluntarily. They shouldn't be taking a penny. They should go get a job or start a professional profit-making company to live off and provide them their basic needs. And when they do a charity, they should do it for the sake of God, to support their cause that they believe passionately about. That's my opinion. But if they are, it's legal for them to take a percentage and pay themselves a salary, find the charity that takes the least amount. And at the bare minimum that I found from the people that say that they give in 100+ % donation, they're actually in reality taking a 10% cut. So they're really giving away 90%. And you might think, well, 90%, if I donate £100, at least I know £90 of it is going to the cause, which might sound good to you. Okay, support that charity. But don't go for these other mainstream charities, big charities that have much bigger overheads, and they're taking 60% cut on expenses and claiming they're giving 100%. They're lying. So beware of this as well. Beware of the nonsense that goes on in the world. And I'm saying this to say that it is not just one group of people. The problem is in our own community. We're exploiting our own. We're trading with religion. We're abusing our belief. Islam is not just a religion, it's a complete way of life. You can't just take one bit that you like and say, well, I don't agree with that. I was speaking to another, I'm not going to say he's a non-Muslim, but I'm going to say because he, comes from a Muslim family, so I'll say he's a Muslim, just for that. But he was arguing with me over the basic tenets of Islam. He said, well, I like this bit, But I don't agree with that part in the Quran. I like this bit, I don't like this bit. Who are you to pick and choose what you like? Either you accept this is the word of Allah or you reject it. You have that freedom. But you can't pick and choose things that you like and then say, well, no, I think that this bit should change. How could you change the rules that are very clear in the Quran? Do you think that you know better than your creator? Do you think that you know better than the Prophet of Allah, the messenger, and the messengers of Allah? That's how ridiculous we are as human beings. That's how shallow we've become. We've become so ignorant that we form our own opinion even against the rules that are very clear in the Quran. And they, oh, what's the benefit of this? What's the benefit of that? I don't agree with that. If I give out charity, I'm reducing my income. And whatever it goes with their whatever desire, they like to do that, or they feel this way and I feel this way and I feel like, fine, you want to do that, don't put it under the name of Islam. If you want to open a shop and sell alcohol and sell haram things, don't put halal meat on your shop, or Islamic shop or a Muslim shop, because you're now, with your behavior, you're kind of like approving these kind of trades under Islam. So a lot of these Islamic charities, they use the word Islam or Muslim or something like that, and then internally they're doing haram. This is completely wrong. Just say that you're a secular charity. That's fine. Don't attach Islam to your name of the charity, or make it affiliated in any way, claiming that you are a Muslim charity. Don't do that. Don't abuse the position of authority. And I'm not just talking about the trustees of charities or the trustees of mosques, even countries. This whole world does not belong to anyone, does not belong to a particular race. Every country in the world does not belong to anyone. We're all trustees here. And like maybe I need today, tomorrow I might be in a stronger position, you might be in need. So I will help you today. Maybe tomorrow I'm in a difficult situation, you'll help me. So we need each other. One day I'm in the top, you're at the bottom. Next day you're in the top and I'm in the bottom. It's just different. We're supposed to be looking out for each other and trying to support each other, not trying to exploit the vulnerabilities or people's ignorance in the market. So you try to cheat them when they ask us, like a taxi ride or something. When you go to Egypt or any Middle Eastern countries, they're always, you have to haggle with the taxi drivers because they try to rip you off because you're a foreigner. They have the wrong understanding of being a human being, a decent human being. Supposed to treat everyone equal, irrespective of where they're from, what language they speak, what their gender is, what their, creed is. You should just treat everyone equal. Don't exploit other people's ignorance. They're a guest in your country, you have to respect them. This is why I also disagree of this police officer, although he was being provoked by the Israeli tourists that were visiting Egypt. They were provoked. He got provoked. He got angry. He couldn't control his temper, and he shot two tourists and killed them in cold blood. Now they're not armed. They didn't have weapons, for example. They didn't threaten him to kill him. So in Islam, you can't kill someone that's unarmed. You can't, harm anyone that's like a normal civilian. You can only fight those who fight you. And like this leader was saying, this Palestinian leader, I don't know if he belongs to Hamas or a different organization, because I don't know him personally, but all I could tell you that he was just saying this exactly the same thing. This was a self-defense. This whole Aqsa flood thing was just in self-defense. And they told their fighters not to go in and cause any atrocities, and there are limits in Islam that, like I told you before, you can't chop trees, you can't harm civilians, you can't take hostages from civilians. You can only fight those who fight you, those who are attacking you, those who are armed. And when you capture a prisoner of war, they're no longer your enemy. They're now your brother in humanity. You have to treat them well. And he said that. He said that when they took prisoners and the hostages that they have them in there with them, living in safety. They're living amongst them. So when Israel drops bomb on these apartments, they're not only killing Palestinians, they're killing their own hostages. And they made the call out that they're prepared to sacrifice all 150 hostages in Gaza. They're prepared to kill their own people. They're sacrificing the 150. Innocent civilians. Why are they doing that? Because they don't care. They have an agenda. They have an agenda to take over Gaza, to ethnically cleanse all the Palestinians. And the blood is also on the hands of the Arabs. The blood is also in the hands of the Egyptian Authority. Because they're not going to stop this massacre. They are joining by being silent, by keeping the borders closed. They are also criminals. They are also part of the crime against humanity. So I'm not siding with any particular nation because we are living in such a corrupt world right now. I cannot think of one world leader that has any decency. But guess what? I respect the Scottish and I respect the Irish. Why do I do that? Because at least they step back and say, we have to be fair. We can't be biased in our reporting. We're not going to put up the terrorist flag on our government buildings. Just like what they do in Parliament House and where you have Big Ben. Now I walk up and down that street so many times, going to events and going to business events and so on when I'm in London, and they're always like they have this like Israeli flag always on the Parliament building. Why do they do that when they know these are the terrorists? Zionism was formed out of a terrorist group. They were inspired by the Nazis and the fascists and white supremacists, and they believe that they're a superior race and everybody else is inferior, everyone else is subhuman. So why do you support a terrorist state? Why are you approving of killing innocent civilians, innocent human beings? The British government. But the Scottish government refused to comply to these requests. Because they're decent human beings. My grandmother was Scottish, so I'm proud of that group, but I'm ashamed of what the British side. I don't even want to be called anything English, not because of the English people, but the government. I'm ashamed of the UK government. It's an embarrassment. They're siding with the criminals, the terrorists. Instead of stepping in and saying this enough is enough, we made a mistake, or our ancestors made a mistake to create this chaos that's going on in the Middle East right now, and now we're going to stop all this. We're all going to sit down and we're going to discuss a peaceful resolution. We're all equal citizens. We can all live. The Jews and Arabs and the Muslims, we all lived in peace and harmony for many, many, many years. In fact, when the Jews were being persecuted by the Christians and the Europeans, they sought protection in the Muslims. They participated in government. They participated in every aspect of human life. Intermarried each other. I have many ethnicities because that's evidence and proof that this did exist. I have many ethnicities. Even ethnically Jew as well, Ashkenazi and North African, Middle Eastern. So I have a mix of everything. 60% Middle Eastern and 40% European, mixed European. So I cannot discriminate against any race because every single race is part of my genetic makeup. It makes no sense to discriminate against any race because I'm a human and everybody's a human. We all belong to the same Father. So it makes no sense to attack each other. We should cooperate to do good in the world. We should value each other. Contribution. There is no such thing as race, superiority and all that stuff. The caste system is a racist, system. How could you be defined based on who your parents are? If they're born from this genetic makeup, then you are the inferior, you are the slave race, and if you're born from this parents, then you are from the superior race. If you're born white, then you're the master, and if you're born black, then you're the slave. What kind of nonsense is that? And you don't deserve to live. The eugenics ideology, which Bill Gates is part of, and his father was the leader of the eugenics, to wipe out the non-white race. Does sound a bit familiar. The Nazis, the Holocaust, discriminate against the Jews. It doesn't, and now they're doing the same thing. Now the Zionists are doing exactly the same thing. And the Zionists killed even the Jews. They perpetrated the Holocaust with Hitler. It's exactly the same. They're doing it to the Palestinians now. If you're a law-abiding, decent human being, like Miko Peled, for example, who speaks up against the injustice that's going on, an Israeli citizen, ethnically Jew, Ashkenazi, his father was a signatory to the State of Israel, grandfather, I think it was, or great-grandfather, I'm not quite sure now. His father was a general in the Israeli army, and then he woke up and he realized the reality that they are the ones who are perpetrating the terrorist attacks, and it's absolutely wrong. And he stood with the natives of the land, and he said, this is unacceptable what our government is doing. Our governments are the ones that are perpetrating these terrorist acts, and this is absolutely wrong. So you should not align with your own immediate family. So if your brother or sister or father is a criminal and he's doing injustice against someone, you don't side with him just because he's your father or he's your brother. You're supposed to speak up against injustice. You're not supposed to be silent. You're supposed to say, no, don't do that. Don't harm this innocent civilian. Why are you doing that? Why are you discriminating? Why are you being racist against someone else? It makes no sense. I grew up with the statement that I've constantly heard from the people around me, ignorance is bliss. And that's absolutely nonsense. This is something that were programmed to the old generation in the past in Egypt by the British. So when the British went into Egypt, what they wanted was to create a generation of ignorant people so they could become slaves. So they could rule over them and there will never be an uprising against the British occupation. It's exactly the same, but unfortunately, the generations that came out of that lived through the British occupation and the generations after that were taught this concept that the most valuable thing is money. Money is the most important thing. And ignorance is bliss. So education, developing yourself is not important. I was often told when I pursued academia and I did multiple degrees, I was often told that, where is the money? Why are you studying? It makes no sense. It's better to go work in a supermarket pushing a trolley and make money quickly. The most important thing is to make money, not to become a beneficial human being. Why are you thinking about others? Why are you thinking of studying and spending your money on education? Because it's not going to be valuable for you. There's many people with PhDs and master degrees and so on that are unemployed. Because they're being taught from their parents and the generation before that the most valuable thing is to just make money. Be a winner, making money. They don't realize that you have to think forward. And then you watch the Western media, films from Hollywood. You see them, they're pro-entrepreneurship. You watch Egyptian films or films that are made in the Middle East. They always paint and portray anyone that's doing business. Either they're doing some sort of a criminal activity, either they're doing drugs or something as a business, or they're robbing people. There's some sort of a criminal. They always paint the entrepreneur as someone as a villain rather than someone as a hero. And that's done intentionally. That's done intentionally. Because the people that control the media in the Middle East are exactly the same. They are part of the same terrorist group. They are servants and slaves of Satan. So they're trying to portray entrepreneurship and business and all that stuff as something negative. and they want everyone to be a slave. But in the West, because they want to promote entrepreneurship, because that's what's building the economy, making the economy stronger and benefiting establishment. So they want to show that the entrepreneurs are heroes, which is right. It's right in that sense. I'm saying take the positive stuff. But what I see when I go to the Middle Eastern countries, as an example, I always see them taking the negative aspects of other cultures and adopting it. They adopt the negative stuff. They don't take positive values. But what we should be doing is looking at the positives of every single culture and adopting it into our own culture. And dropping out any negative ideas and concepts, nonsense. The value of the man is his pocket, which basically means that any man that's got more money in his pocket, he's more valuable. So the women and mothers always advise their daughters, look for the man that has the most amount of money in his pocket. Basically training their daughters from a very young age to become gold diggers. What kind of nonsense is that? And I've lived through it. I've lived and I've seen so many people that are getting this advice. Take advantage of your partner for materialistic gain. Because that's what that's wrong. That's a wrong kind of concept. These things are not from Islam. It's from bad cultures. It's nothing to do with Islam. Any behavior that you might see of a Muslim doing some criminal thing, or a terrorist, for example. I'm not talking about Hamas or any of these people. I can't say they're terrorists in any way. I can say they are freedom fighters. Hamas basically means resistance. And I'm not knowledgeable so much in Hamas to tell you if they're good or bad guys. I don't know. But I can tell you what the word means. Resistance. What is wrong with being part of a group called resistance? As an example. They always misinterpret. Like I was talking to a Latin American friend recently, and he was saying the word jihad, for example. And I said to him, what jihad means struggle. So when you struggle to build a business, you are doing jihad to build a business. It's an Arabic word. It doesn't have a negative connotation. It doesn't mean holy war. It means struggle. So anyone that's doing a form of struggle, struggling in life, you are doing jihad in life. You're struggling to, provide for your family. You're struggling to survive. You're struggling to get an education, pass an exam. You're struggling in the gym to build muscles, improve your health. You're doing jihad in the gym, not you're going out there to kill the infidels and all that nonsense. It means you are performing a struggle, any form of struggle. You struggle to self-restrain yourself against becoming angry. So if you're in a situation where you're becoming angry, you're doing jihad on yourself to restrain yourself against, taking revenge or, preventing yourself from crossing someone else's boundary, for example. So you're doing jihad on yourself. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you're doing holy war on yourself. But because there are so many ignorant people out there that don't want to pick up a book and read and find out the facts, they like to follow the mainstream like lemmings. That's the reality that we have today. We have people that are falling for complete nonsense, fabricated pictures, fabricated news, false news that's being spread all over the internet. No one stands up. Only very few people stand up. Very, very few people. The percentage-wise is so minuscule. Even that alone, in London, I've seen protests, pro-Palestinian protests, in tens, if not even hundreds of thousands of people that are protesting all over the UK, not just in London, but all over the UK. They're protesting in huge numbers. Yet the mainstream media reports it as a few hundred, tens of people. They make it sound as if it's below 100 people that are gathering. And they call them as, these people are terrorist sympathizers. Terrorists? What? What kind of nonsense? They're the ones who are they're the ones who are supporting the terrorists. And if you see just a group of Zionists that are gathering, the media reports it as thousands of Israelis and Jews are united, and they're they're protesting and they're celebrating and all that stuff. And if I can go to these protests or these, gatherings, and I can probably count every single one of them very quickly. They're the ones who are like in 10, 20 people that are gathering, and the media blows it up and says thousands of people are pro-Israel. It's nonsense. That is not true. The reality, the vast majority of people are on the side, or they're being brainwashed and they stay at home. They don't feel like, oh, going to this side or that side. And not every Muslim is a proper Muslim. There are a lot of fake Muslims. There are a lot of munafiqeen. I speak to so many of them. They say one thing, but they do something else. They come to you and they're all religious and they're like that, but you see them outside, they're drinking, taking loans from banks. They're selling out. They're doing everything opposite to the teaching of Islam. They're following and worshipping their own desires. Whatever the desire feels, they do it. They don't care about anything. The Islam for them is just in a mosque on Friday. If they come to the mosque, if they go to Jummah on Friday. That's if they did. There are people that I spoke to, so-called Muslims, even Egyptians, that are pro-Israeli. They're on the side of Israel and they're against the Palestinians. They speak very negatively against Palestinians. They call Palestinians terrorists, just like the Israelis, and they're ethnically Egyptian. So it's not about the race and whatever. They're so brainwashed that they believe, Israel is a democratic country and, they have the self-right to defend it. I spoke to Egyptians living in the UK that are like that. I spoke to people like in this kind of mentality, and I get surprised. I get shocked. How could you? How could you even think like that? I'm not telling you to speak against Jews, because that's wrong, because ethnically they're also human beings. They are equal to us. Even Umar ibn Khattab, a leader, the Khalifa, which I know the West, they don't have this stigma against the word Khalifa, for example. It basically means head of state. The other word is someone as a representative, civil servant. That's the meaning of a Khalifa, is a representative of the people. That is the meaning. It's an Arabic word again. It's not some like terrorist leader or something. It's called Khalifa. Khalifa basically means the representative of the people. President, prime minister, you call it whatever, civil servant. And when Umar al-Khattab, who was the head of state of the Muslims, he entered Jerusalem, first thing he did, he was asking about the Jewish brothers. Where's our Jewish brothers in faith? Because Muslims and Jews and the people that follow the Torah worship the same God. We all worship Allah. It's actually permissible for a Jew to pray in a mosque and for a Muslim to pray in a synagogue, because these are places of worship. They're pure, they're clean. The rules of worship, to perform your prayer, there are certain rules. So it's permissible for a Muslim to go into a holy place like a synagogue and pray there. So it's acceptable. And he asked for them, and the Roman governor or whatever, he said to him, we've massacred them all. And he was upset about it, what they did to the ethnically Jews that were living in Jerusalem at the time. And he went to the Temple Mount and he found a big rubbish dump there. And he, as the head of state, started picking up and cleaning up the place. And he told one of his companions, who was ethnically Jew, and he reverted to Islam, he told him, go out into other cities, other countries, and seek out Jewish families and invite them back to Jerusalem and tell them they are now safe to live here and they'll be protected by us Muslims. So he repopulated the Jewish population in Jerusalem. And then they were allowed to be in government. He once was walking in the street, the head of state, imagine this, and he found a very old, poor Jewish man begging in the street. He says, why are you begging in the street? He asked the Jewish man, why are you homeless? Why are you begging in the street? He says, well, I don't have children. I don't want anyone to support me. I'm too old to work. I can't do anything. And he quickly rushed into the treasury and he brought out food and different things, and he carried it on his own back. This is the head of state, and he gave it to the man, and he said to him, from now on, every single week you'll get benefit. The concept of a benefit system, social security system, is actually an Islamic concept. It wasn't invented in the West. It was invented by the Muslims. It was created to service and to serve the people and give provision to those who are in need, those who are not able to provide for themselves. They have some sort of, they're in a vulnerable situation. They don't have an equal opportunity to, build up. They don't have a family to support them. But it's highly encouraged. Instead of you being a taker, it's you to be a giver. You're the one who's giving other people, not a taker. So, but some people, they don't have the abilities. They're incapacitated, or they're old, too old, they're frail, they have medical conditions. They can't provide for themselves. So they need help from the community. We shouldn't look down on them. We should try to help them. Reach out. So even then, he didn't say, oh, this guy is non-Muslim, let's not help him. No, he helped him. He supported him, he pulled him out, and he gave him housing, gave him food, shelter, and a weekly income. Benefit. Financial support from the treasury. That is Islam. We're here to serve all of mankind, not discriminate against each other based on gender or creed or anything like that. Now, of course, and I am admitting, majority of people don't know that. Majority of Muslims don't know that. They think Islam is just worshipping, just praying 5 times a day, and that's it. If they even do that. Of course, that's the foundation of Islam. These are the pillars of Islam, but that's only 3% of Islam. 97% of Islam is how you deal, your character, your conduct in the world, how you benefit and contribute to society, how you support others less fortunate than you up, the economics, the political, the legal system, and so on. It's not about all this nonsense that you hear spreading on social media or spreading in the mainstream media, or people just talking nonsense all the time, inventing lies about what Islam is and what the Prophet did. They don't have any knowledge. They never studied the biography of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, to make comments. Yet very quickly they make claims about his conduct and his behavior and what he said and what he didn't say. They don't know anything. Out of ignorance, they make up fantasies, allegations. Were they there at the time? Did they study Islam? Did they learn and look at the seerah, the biography of the Prophet and the companions, how they implemented his advice, to judge based on that? So yes, the first generations of Muslims were absolutely perfect. But then the generations afterwards, they started to go a little bit astray. They started mixing Islam with their culture, their backward culture. They started blending it and coming up with different wild rules that never existed in Islam. Nothing to do with Islam. All these cultural things that go on in Egypt, Pakistan, Afghanistan, is completely out of Islam. It's nothing to do with Islam. In Islam, it's an obligation that you give education to your daughters. Obligation to give education. In Afghanistan, maybe they ban education for girls. It's nothing to do with Islam. That goes against Islam. This goes against Islamic teaching completely. But they do it in the name of Islam. They do these things in the name of Islam. I've been to Middle Eastern countries where they take girls out from the age of, I think, 13. They stop from education. I asked them, why did you do that? And the father said, oh, there's a lot of, corruption, a lot of things go on. And women, at the end, they get married. And that's, they think this is the purpose of a woman, is just to get pregnant and give birth. And that's it. It's not any value for her to get education. Well, this is absolutely wrong. Because if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And this is why a lot of these countries, you have the most ignorant people. Because their mothers was ignorant. If their mother was ignorant, then her children, because usually the children look up to the mother. They look at the mother as the school, effectively. So if you have an ignorant wife or an ignorant mother, her children, with a high probability, will be uneducated as well. With exceptions, of course, there are exceptions to the rule where you get the child that goes through this and then gets to a mature age and decides that he doesn't believe in these concepts, and then he starts pursuing the right path, maybe starts reading the Quran, gets more religious, understands what the true teachings of Islam is, and then he starts pursuing academic education. Then he sets up his own company and starts going in a different direction than his previous generation. So there are exceptions, يخلق من الفاسد عالم. He creates from a corrupt person a scholar, and from a scholar a corrupt person. So someone that might be a high religious individual, and his son becomes a drug dealer, for example, although his father is very knowledgeable and very religious and he understands the right and wrong, but his son decides to go in a different direction. I know families that were religious families and their daughter left Islam, for example. And likewise, families that, like non-religious families, Jewish families, Christian families, Buddhist families, and their son and daughters reverted to Islam. It goes both ways. So it's not about your parents only, but that's a big factor, where you grew up, your social circle, how that's going to be impacting you, whatever. And a lot of people don't ask questions. They believe, and when someone tells them something, they take it for granted. They believe the liar. They take the liar as a truthful person and the truthful person as the liar. They twist things. They twist reality. We can't be like that, or brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters in humanity, we can't be like that. We have to go and verify our own information. We can't take someone else's experience and base it as facts, because that person may be a liar, may be a dajjal, an imposter. And don't give any position of authority to someone that wants to be in power, because they probably and very likely are unqualified for a position. You should look for the best person, the most knowledgeable person in that particular area, and that particular person is the one that you should appoint. You should collectively go approach that person and say, we want you to be our trustee for this particular charity or non-profit thing. Not someone that just says, vote for me, elect me, I'm the best. No, you cannot raise yourself. You don't know yourself. Other people are supposed to judge you based on your credentials, your qualifications, your experience in a certain field. Not you claim to be the best person to take that position of CEO or president of a country or prime minister. Don't put yourself forward. That's not how it works in Islam. In Islam, you're supposed to first live a good life, do everything to your best of ability. People are aware of what you are able to do, how you deal with certain situations, and they, amongst themselves, do shura, consultants, like discussion between themselves. I can never say the words. Sometimes some words I get mixed up, and then they decide amongst themselves. We prefer, Ahmad or Muhammad or Hassan are the best people to, lead us. They will follow. They'll comply. They might not be the most. They might not memorize the whole Quran. That's not the requirement. But based on his character, his conduct, he's gonna rule with fairness, equal rights, everything like that. That's fine. He's not gonna exploit. He has no desire for the world and all these things. That's important. Not to exploit his position of authority. So they look up to that particular individual, and then they ask him, could you, we would like to appoint you in this position. You are now our Khalifa, our Emir, to judge between us and to rule according to the Quran and the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and bliss upon him. That is the way it's done in Islam, not based on votes, collecting votes from the most ignorant of society. Because the people that are voting, vast majority of them right now in a democratic government, are the most ignorant people. People that don't know anything about politics, don't know anything about law, economics, technology, or anything. They don't know. The only thing they know is what they watch from the BBC. The only thing they know is the few statements. And politicians always lie. Always. They always lie. They like to paint a rosy picture. Are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? And if we're in power, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And once they're in power, they completely do the complete opposite. They do whatever is beneficial for them and their crony friends. And that's all. They don't care about you and me. They don't care about the citizens of society. They're not civil servants. They are servants to themselves, not for you. They're supposed to be servants to the civilians. That's why they're called civil servants. So the citizens of the country, they're supposed to be serving them, not serving their own interests, not serving their friends. So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is the reality that we're living in today. They coming up with all these fraudulent contracts amongst their buddy friends, giving the contracts to them. It's all a Ponzi scheme for them. This is a way to exploit society and take advantage of us people. But we all need to rise up, stand up. I'm not saying to take like military action or to do any form like in that way, but I'm saying we need to speak up and point out the fabrications and make them aware that we are aware of their injustice that they're doing to us by not, giving, fair alternative news to the facts, not being challenged on whatever claims they make. They're silencing free speech in so many ways, discriminating. If they don't like someone's opinion, they freeze their bank accounts. They, cut them out of society, damage their business, cause terrorist attacks, not just in violence. They might cause terrorist attacks against their business by trying to damage their business. So this particular individual, his business will fail in the market. They target people in that way. If you're not following their path, then you're not on a straight path, and you don't deserve to live, and will destroy everything and will stand in your way to make progress. And they'll target you directly or indirectly. So you have to be brave. You can't live as a coward. And it's an order from Allah as well. Don't be a coward. Stand up for your rights. I'm saying this to my Muslim brothers and sisters, because a lot of them are living like cowards. They're too scared to speak up, too scared to stand up. Yes, as individuals, and we're all disunited in this way, yes, they can pick each one by one, but as a united force of speaking with one voice, we are a formidable force. 2 billion Muslims. Don't you think that is something? Coming up to a third of the world population. A third of the world population, 1 in 3 people are Muslims. You don't think that's enough to have a voice? But we've become such worthless beings in this planet, cowards, and we are too silent. And like I told you, silence is betrayal. We don't speak up for human rights. We don't speak up against, for animal rights even. Then we're a waste of time here. We're not fulfilling our purpose. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. All I wanted was to share this particular statement, which was given out on the 7th of October. Now we're on the 13th of October. The massacres are still going on. An ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims is still going on. Even Christians are being massacred. So it's not about that. Even Jews are being massacred by the Zionist state. They don't tell you, report it on the news, but that's what they're doing. They're silencing, they're preventing all the other citizens that are living in occupied Palestine under the name of Israel. I can't curse the word Israel because Israel is a prophet also in Islam. And the descendants of Israel are also Muslims. So I can't curse that name in any way or say negative thing about it. It's not the name, it's the people that are behind it that are the enemy. Yeah, we have to make that clear as well. For we can't make a curse, against, the name Israel, because Israel is a name of a prophet. It's a prophet also in Islam. So they named the country, calling a country Israel does not mean that they're following the teaching of the Torah. They're not following the teaching of the Torah. They're following the teaching of Iblis, Satan. Because Satan was the first racist that was ever created. He didn't start off that way because of his haughtiness and racists and arrogance and pride. That's what made him. He was a racist against the human race. His race, he believed in the jinn race. They're supposed to be more superior than the human race. And therefore he said to God, I'm better than him. I'm better. I'm far more superior. You made me out of smokeless fire. You created him out of earth, out of dirt. I'm superior. I'm a superior material. So I deserve to be in control. I deserve to be your representative on earth. But God chose Adam to be the representative on earth. He gave him a position of authority. Not position of authority as in you are the ruler and... No, you are a trustee. Like you're a trustee of a charity. I trust you to manage this particular organization. In this case, Adam was sent to earth as a trustee to look after the planet, to do productive activity, constructive activity, advance on that planet. So Allah assigned Adam and his descendants, the human race, to populate the planet Earth and to progress, create positive things and help those who are, less fortunate. It's a test. We're in a test process. But because of this racist ideology from Satan, Iblis, the demonic being, those people like the white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, Nazis, Zionists, they adopted this racist ideology. People that have created the caste system in India, they adopted. They are the servants of Satan. They're not servants of God. They've gone away from the Torah. Shall not kill, steal, all these commands, 10 commandments. They're not abiding by any of the Torah commandments. So they're nothing to do with, the teaching of the Torah, nor are they anything to do with following Moses, who was a prophet of God, Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not following that. They've gone astray. Other Jews know that, and that's why they refuse and they speak up against the state, the Zionist state. And they refuse to recognize it, along with all decent human beings. Only the indecent human beings recognize it as a legitimate state. But it's not. It was an illegitimate state created by the British. They took someone else's land and they gave it to another group of people who had no connection to that land. And the vast majority are not even ethnically, in percentage-wise, they're not ethnically Jew or belong to the land or have any connection to the land. They all came from Europe. And some Palestinians are more ethnically Jew than the so-called Jews. They, percentage-wise, because they belong there, they're intermarried. So it makes absolutely no sense to even be fighting against each other, taking arms against each other. But of course, if someone's attacking you, you have every right to defend yourself as a human being. And the criminals are on the side of the Zionist state. They're based on terror. They were born out of a terror group. The British did not give it to a decent, a group of decent human beings or people that are refugees and, just anybody. They basically selected a terrorist group that were perpetrating crimes even against the British, and they gave them control of Palestine. And what would a group of criminals do? Uneducated criminals, what would they do? They'll cause criminal activity. Because that's all they think about. That's all they know is crime. Living like gangsters. Running like a mafia organization. And I don't mean to insult the mafia here, because they're probably more decent than the Zionists. They may not have any racist concept. They're only interested in making money through legal or illegal means. But the Zionists, they're just there to ethnically cleanse any other race that living on that land. And that's what they've been doing for the past 75 plus years. Even before they were recognized as a state. Previous to that, for the past 500 years, 1,000 years, they've been committing crimes against humanity. Like I said, they were born out of terrorists, groups of terrorists, criminals. That's what they came from. They came from that. They were causing terrorist activity in Europe. So, yeah, I mean, we need to really think about these things. We need to really go out there and find the facts. Not live in a bubble and say, well, it's someone else's problem. It's a conflict of religion. It's nothing to do at all with religion. It's nothing at all to do with ethnicity. That is what the media leads you to believe. That it's some conflict between two different ethnic groups or two different religious ideologies. Nothing at all to do with that. It's all about occupying, stealing, robbing someone else's resources, someone else's assets, abusing, committing crimes against humanity. And unfortunately, the vast majority of the West and the vast majority of the world have sided with the terrorists, the terrorist state of Israel, and state-sponsored terrorists, the IDF. But even that's, I don't like even want to say that all of them will go to hell. I'm just telling you right now, you can change. Even if you're a soldier, you disobey your orders, you're doing good for yourself. Because the orders you've been given is to kill other human beings. And you need to refuse that. Say, no, I'm not going to continue this cycle of violence. I'm going to stop. I'm going to refuse. Get court-martialed, whatever. But at least I can live with that. I can live. I did the right thing. I didn't kill another human being. I didn't perpetrate the crime. I stepped away from the criminal organizations. You stay away from it. Don't be, a criminal with them criminals. Whoever it is that gives you orders that goes against, the God-given dignity and human rights, exploiting other people, taking advantage, harming another human, disobey it. You don't have to follow everything that you're told. You have a brain. You can use that brain. You can form your own opinion. You can get educated. Just because someone tells you you're not good enough and they have an opinion on you and they say, well, we know better than you, you just follow our orders. You can say, no, God gave me a brain. He gave me a brain to use. So I'm going to use my own brain. I'm going to figure the facts out and I'm going to make an informed decision. So you could be different. You don't have to obey orders. You don't have to obey every single order that's given to you by your parent or your leader or your boss. You can question it. If they're giving you good advice, like if your parents are telling you go get education, study, work hard, struggle in your younger years because it will make the rest of your life better. If you invest your youth right now and you start building a business or working hard, studying, learning new skills and developing yourself in younger years, later on your life will be more comfortable. and you'll be more beneficial to society. So take that good advice, listen to that. But if your parents are criminals or they're doing something harmful and they give you the order, go kill this individual. No, I'm not going to. Go worship a statue. No, I'm not going to bow down to worship a statue like Abraham and his father. His father, he was creating statues that people, gods that people were worshipping. And Abraham, from a very young age, challenged his father and said to him, no, I'm not going to obey you and worship a statue. It does not make sense. This statue cannot harm me or benefit me in any way. What's the point in putting food in front of a statue? He used his brain and he refused, and he tried to advise his father. He's trying to save his father and to guide him to worship the one true God, Allah. So you don't have to obey your parents. This is a misunderstanding of the orders from the Prophet Muhammad. Yes, you respect your parents, you treat them well, you do all these things, but you don't have to accept every single nonsense that they tell you. There are parents out there that are completely ignorant. They're brainwashed. They're brain trashed because they just sit in front of a TV 24/7. They didn't get any education in their life, and they just sit in front of a TV. All they're watching is prank videos, cat videos. What can they teach you? They can't give you good advice. And then they get brainwashed by the mainstream media on what's going on in the world, and they form in their opinion in a certain way, and then they'll give you advice. Oh, these people are bad people. Oh, these people are, because that's what they've been watching. That's their source of information. The mainstream media. They didn't read a book. They didn't go to university. They didn't use their brain. They didn't learn how to think. So if you take advice from them, they will give you bad advice. But they mean well. They are giving you what they believe is the facts, because that's the source of information they've been getting. So you respect them, but you say, I respect you, but I agree to disagree with you on these points. But you're still my mum, you're still my dad, you're still, my uncle, whatever. I respect you. You have your way of life, I have my way of life. There's no compulsion religion. You can't guide those who you love, but Allah guides those who seek guidance. Those who seek guidance. Those who want to learn, Allah will provide them with education. You go to university because you're seeking the education, you seek to achieve a certain level of education, then eventually, if you struggle, even if you failed once, twice, 3 times, doesn't matter. Eventually you will reach your goal, inshallah, God willing. But if you sit there on you're just sitting there watching TV, watching prank videos, wasting your life away, not investing your time, not investing in yourself to get a proper education and skills or anything, trying to develop yourself in some way, don't expect somehow the sky is going to just start raining on you with gold and silver and money's going to just flow to you. That's a misunderstanding of the whole thing. It doesn't work that way. That's not reality. Don't devalue yourself in this world. And don't let other people's opinions affect you. A lot of times when people didn't succeed in their life, they start assuming that nobody can become successful. Nobody can become decent human beings. If they were born in the life of crime, they think that everybody has to be a criminal to survive. That's the only way. Because that's all they know. Their parents were criminals, so they think, well, I have to be a criminal, and that's the only way to make money is to abuse and exploit other people. That's all they know. They didn't question the culture or the belief and traditions, and there's a lot of things that you might, if you really look at it and say, well, that doesn't make sense. Why are we behaving in such a way? Why are we giving food to a statue? Why am I bowing down to a statue and asking that statue to give me advice or to protect me against evil, or praying to a dead person and asking him to go to paradise? What can a dead person do to you? Can't do nothing. You pray to your Creator directly. You don't need to go to another human being, whether it's a dead human being or a living individual. No one can benefit you. Only you and God directly. You have a direct connection with your Creator. You want to speak to your Creator? Just stop praying. Just pray. Create supplication. You are talking to your Creator. And if you want your Creator, Allah, to talk to you, pick up the Quran and read it. I guarantee you, if you start reading the Quran, every time I pick up the Quran and just read a few verses, I feel like Allah's talking to me directly. As if that story is relevant to my life right now, what I'm living. As if this particular advice and this particular story is related to the issue that I'm in right now. As if it's directly to me. So it's amazing, absolutely amazing. And if you read the Quran sincerely, you would realize that this could not be from anyone except the Creator. It's full of knowledge and wisdom. And I was talking to an atheist yesterday in an investor event, and he was telling me about evolution and how we all came from monkeys and all this nonsense that they always repeat and that kind of stuff. And I told him what really amazed me and impressed me in Islam when I was reading the Quran as a teenager, and I started looking into properly religion, and I started discovering things and started comparing it with factual evidence from the scientific community and what's been recently discovered. And I went back into the Quran, I found it mentioned there 1,400 years ago. I was very impressed. And it makes sense, because it's like whoever created this universe and created everything and is aware of everything, the Creator, he must know his creation. He must know his creation more and far better than creation. Therefore, he would know exactly what happened to Pharaoh, what happened to Noah's Ark. So when you look into the Quran as an example, you see where it describes Noah's Ark and where it settled, with the mountain it settled on. You look into the Bible, and if you just compare two scriptures, just a simple thing. And the Bible claims that Noah's Ark settled in a particular mountain. In the Quran it says a completely different mountain. But what's recently been discovered is the exact place that was mentioned in the Quran is the place where Noah's Ark settled. And then you see the story of Pharaoh, who was persecuting the ethnically Jews and enslaving them. And it tells us in the Quran that he drowned with his soldiers when they tried to chase after Bani Israel, the followers, the Muslims of the time that followed Musa alayhi salam. And he drowned. In the Bible it says that Pharaoh escaped and lived. But in the Quran it says that at the time of the drowning of Pharaoh, Pharaoh said, I believe in the God of Moses. And God responded in the Quran and said, now you believe? Now when you're facing death, when it's all over, you're now saying that you believe? I'm not going to accept it. But I'm going to use you as a sign. I'm going to use you as a sign. I'm going to preserve your body until the day of judgment. I'm going to preserve your body as a sign for the next generations. For 1,000, 2,000 years after. Preserve your body without any mummification, just preservation. And then Pharaoh's body was discovered in the Red Sea at the exact crossing where Moses and his followers escaped and crossed when they parted the sea. He was discovered at that spot, and they tested his body, and the body did not decompose. They tested it, they realized that this body belonged 3,000 or something years ago. And that is Pharaoh, Ramses II. There's a statue in Egypt. I don't know why they have a statue of a dictator and someone that claimed to be God. I don't know why Egyptians have that, Ramses Square, and now it's been renamed to Freedom Square or something else. Why do they have a statue of someone who claims to be God, who was someone that persecuted other human beings? Why do they glorify this entity in some way? But yeah, that's the reality. That is the reality of the world. People like to live in ignorance. People don't care. They don't question these things. They just go with the flow. This is the reality of what we're living in right now. Total ignorance. And ignorance is glorified in the mainstream media. You watch cartoons, you watch anything, disrespect society, ignorance is bliss. That's what's getting pushed to the next generations. They're trying to keep that going. But now with information, the internet and so on, you can start questioning these things. Although they're censoring a lot of stuff, you can start questioning. You can start reading, going back to books and trying to, discover history yourself. Of course, some of the history books have been, rewritten to serve the establishment and the occupier and so on. But you have to look deep. You have to read from alternative, sources of information. You have to be a researcher. You have to be a student all your life, constantly trying to learn, find out the truth. And if you seek the truth, you'll get the truth. Like I said, God guides those who seek guidance. So you have to be seeking guidance to get guidance. It's not going to happen to you by you have to be sincere. You have to be sincerely searching and have that. But once you're filled and you're certain of your own narrative, no matter, even if the truth hits you in the face, you'll never see it. Just like in our story, I don't know where this story came from, but I heard it before, of a fisherman who was praying to God to give him, provision and to increase his wealth and that kind of stuff. And he'll go fishing. And then every night, when he goes at night, hoping to catch fish so he can feed his family and so on. And then he throws the net, casts the net overboard and leaves it on for a few hours. And he starts pulling it in just before dawn. And every time the net is very heavy, but because he can't actually see the objects, so he's feeling around, it feels like really hard, like rocks or something. So he starts throwing the net and he empties the net back into the sea again. And then he goes back home and he says, why isn't God give me? Well, I'm praying, I'm asking God to help me and so on. And he goes a second night and a third night. And every time he throws the net and he pulls it back in, it's very heavy. And he keeps throwing the objects. And on the last night, the daylight started to come out. And he started to see that he's actually throwing back into the sea jewels, diamonds, pearls, treasure. So basically his net was catching on some treasure that was, that settled on the beds of the sea. And when he's pulling back the net, he's actually pulling back wealth. Even just one piece of jewel is far more than if he was to get tons of fish every single day for the rest of his life. Just the one piece. And God gave him so much treasure, but he didn't recognize the value. He didn't recognize that God actually answered his prayer. It's just foolishness. And even if you watch The Pursuit of Happiness, Will Smith was acting as the lead actor. And, he tells a story of a man that was drowning. And he said, God save me. And a boat came by. And this man said to him, come, he throws a rope and, tries to pull him in. And the man says, no, I don't want you to help me. I want God to help me. So then that person just goes off. Another person comes and he keeps saying, God help me, God save me. And another person comes along to save him. And he says, no, go away from me. I want God to save me. I'm asking only God to save me. And then he dies and then he goes up and meets God, according to the story in The Pursuit of Happiness. It's a bit humorous. And then he says, God, I've been asking you to save me and you didn't save me. Why didn't you save me? And he said, and God answers him and says to him, you fool, I sent you all these people to rescue you, but you didn't recognize that. So it's a bit of a joke in the film, but it makes sense that people are actually asking for God's help, but they don't recognize the help that's coming their way. You need to recognize things. You need to be aware. You need to, when you look around, you see problems. You're not supposed to just see problems. You're supposed to see opportunities. There's a problem. Let me create a business around that. Let me solve that problem. And then that problem, maybe a lot of people are being affected by it. So then the market is valuing you very high because you're providing a service. You're benefiting the need of the society. So you have to think outside the box. You have to see problems as opportunities. Don't complain. There are problems in the world and there's no shops and whatever. And, I go to countries and they say, oh, there's no halal meat, for example. Has anyone tried to open a shop to sell halal meat? Has anyone tried to open a slaughterhouse? Has anyone tried to import this particular food that you're saying, or you're looking for this particular food, or you're looking for this particular spice, and it's not available in this particular city? Has anyone actually done some research and to find out if the market's big enough to create a business around it? And they say no. I says, why not? Why not you be the first person that maybe starts to go into that particular line? Why are you waiting for someone else to do it? Why not seize that opportunity? Why don't you go where no man has gone and create a trail for others to follow? And when I'm saying man, it could be man or woman, it doesn't matter. Even women are entrepreneurs. The wife of the Prophet Muhammad, she was an entrepreneur. She was a businesswoman. So there's nothing wrong with being an entrepreneur for a woman or a man. We're both equal. We're different, but equal. We're not the same. We perform different in different tasks. We have our own roles and responsibilities that we perform better in. That does not make a woman superior or the man is superior. We just perform better. We have different physical attributes. We perform different roles in life. Nothing to do with inferior and superior. We complete each other. You're a complete man once you're married. Once you're united, because you become complete. A man is not complete without his wife, and a wife is not complete without her husband. We complete each other. We're supposed to cooperate to do something with a common goal. We are here to serve. We are servants of God on this planet, to serve mankind, to serve the creations of God, to make this world a better place for everybody else, to help the less fortunate. That is the purpose of life. To serve God by serving others. Service to many leads to greatness. I spoke too long and I need to start my day. I've got quite a few things to do today, inshallah. And I need to resolve a few things that obviously are being treated unjustly. I need to see what's going on, and need to fight some cases that's that I need to deal with, simply because of my opinion, simply because I stood up for truth. I'm being discriminated, but I'm insignificant in society in comparison with other people that are more influential, well-known celebrities. They have more of a case, but I'm nobody. I'm an unknown person. I'm a small business owner, not in comparison with other businesses, so there's not that much exposure. But this is happening right now. There's a lot of discrimination. If they don't like you, they shut you off, they delete your profile, they silence you, they shadow ban you, they close their bank accounts, they freeze your assets. You know, you potentially could be just someone's just giving your opinion on, or giving a review, but it doesn't sit or align with their narrative. They'll just shut you off. They'll go to their extremes to even kill you if they have to. But they go in stages, just like Andrew Tate said. Andrew Tate spoke about this. They give you the first warning, second warning, third warning is they kill you, and that's it. That's just the process that they follow. He's 100% correct in that. That's what's happening. A lot of people that speak the truth are brave enough to speak up against injustice. They get targeted in so many different levels. But that's the reality, and that's something that I've accepted. I accepted it when I started to open my mouth and speak up for the truth, speak up for justice for all human beings, expose the corruption that's existing in our society, irrespective if they are from the Muslim community or Jews, Zionists. Doesn't matter who they are. They're doing something wrong. I'm exposing it. I'm speaking up against it, because all human life matters. It's not Black Lives Matters or Arab life matters or Jew life matters, but all human life matters. Fortunately, it goes against the mainstream opinion. So yeah, that's the thing. But I don't want to scare people from stepping forward and speaking out, because the more people that speak out, they can't silence every single Muslim. They can't silence every single decent human being that speaks up for truth. They can't silence billions of people, but they can silence, if there was just a couple of hundred people out there stepping up and speaking out, they can start targeting each individual and shut them off. Freeze their assets, steal, rob from them. They could do that. But they can't do it to billions of people. Otherwise the whole economy, everything fails. They need us. So Therefore, they can't kill us all. They need some slaves. But if you all stand up for your God-given rights, they have to step back a little bit and think twice before they take any action. If Egypt steps in and says, no, these are our brothers and sisters, we're not going to allow you to carry out the massacre, and they speak up against that corruption that's taking place right now, and the facade, Israel would think twice. America would think twice, 3 times. The British would think twice, 3 times as well, before they take any action. Because they will pull the whole world into World War III. They don't need that. The economy doesn't need it right now. They'll destroy their own wealth. They'll devalue themselves. They think they can win this war, but it's their destruction at the end. Because they will destroy themselves. They are their first public enemy number 1. Not an exterior enemy, an internal enemy. Because they will destroy themselves internally. It will be the end of it. No one will benefit from war. Everyone loses. No one wins in war. So we should all, as decent human beings, always resolve things peacefully. And we can agree to disagree on certain points. That's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Everyone's entitled to form an opinion based on the information that they have in front of them. They can change that opinion later on. They've given different facts. But we should be respectful to one another. So this is, and everyone has a right to live their life the way they want to live it. If someone believes, they're an atheist, fine. No one can question what they believe and how they live their life. Live your life as how you want it. But just don't commit any criminal offense against anyone. Don't go harm any other human being. Don't impose your way of life on other people. Respect other people's, God-given right. Even if you don't believe in God, but just respect other, human beings. We are still brothers and sisters in humanity. So I'll leave you with that, inshallah. And I wish you good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. And peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Take care. Bye-bye.